until now. So suddenly, really in the last couple of years, we finally started to see more and more reshoring, and that's broadly, not just electronics. That means we are literally creating more manufacturing jobs, and meaningfully more than ever before. If you actually look at the trend lines of manufacturing jobs, they are now starting to go up and to the right, which they haven't done in a very long time. They've been keeping up with just overall global growth, but it's been in a long-term secular decline, and now it's starting to go up again. So in electronics specifically, we are absolutely seeing not just people talking about reshoring and nearshoring, but very much an understanding in the supply chain world that they have to start thinking about resilience, and they have to start thinking about what happens if the country in which they manufacture is not accessible for whatever reason. And I think the reasons for that are multifold. We initially started to see people get concerned about it because of COVID and tariffs. That really wasn't enough to start the reshoring wave. When it really started moving were the ocean freight bottlenecks, right? When the transit time from China went from 4 to 5 weeks to 25 weeks. When we went, in terms of pricing of what it costs to move things out of China, when we went 10x and then 20x on that price, all of a sudden the supply chain world tipped over and started to realize that it's not just the shutdowns, it's not just the tariffs, it's not just the slowdowns in ocean shipping, it's all of these things. And the final straw, I think, has been instability in Europe, and now the possibility that war might break out somewhere is no longer theoretical. So everybody's now planning for what happens in a scenario that none of us want to think about. Will my supply chain actually hold up? And the answer is that if you're single-threaded in a single manufacturing region, it doesn't matter which one you're in, you're probably at risk and you're probably exposed. For all intents and purposes, supply chain holds up quite nicely if it's within continental United States. You're not reliant on a lot of ocean freight, even though you may still be sourcing some components worldwide, but your final assembly, where the products actually take shape and they become packaged into final packaging for delivery, that doesn't have to necessarily get stuck in a port off the coast of California, for example. So North America makes a lot of sense for manufacturing. In fact, most people don't realize is that North America is one of the largest manufacturing hubs, period, right? And if you look at electronics, there's actually a lot of electronics specifically already built in North America. What we're now seeing is that the growth in North America for electronics is starting to accelerate. So by the numbers, we're talking about just assembly numbers. It's about a $500 billion market worldwide for all electronics assembly, about $560 billion. North America is about 1/5 of that. It's about $104 billion and growing faster now than it was 2 years ago. So we're absolutely seeing a pretty major shift in terms of how supply chains operate. And it used to be a doubling down in Asia, and it seems to be moving in the direction of making sure that new projects get allocated more to North America. But if you're looking at things that require intellectual property protection, anything that has higher value especially, that seems to stay in North America these days. And we're starting to get more and more inbound demand for and questions asked about how do you make sure that my intellectual property doesn't get stolen, and how do you make sure that you can build this product in North America without compromising some of the benefits you get in Asia. Let's be honest, most people don't realize is that Mexico is one of the largest manufacturing regions in the world and always has been. Multinational companies have always been in Mexico. So when you go to major manufacturing centers in Mexico, such as Guadalajara, Tijuana, and Monterrey, for example, you will see the biggest brand names on some of the manufacturing buildings there. Where it's harder is for small and mid-sized companies, right? Mexico is really optimized for large companies doing production in Mexico. So it's harder to navigate, and it's harder just to get off the plane in Mexico and find somebody who can build product for you. Having said that, some of the best factories in the world, some of the best craftsmanship in the world in terms of manufacturing. So we're seeing manufacturing get really rebalanced all over the world, but especially in North America. We're hearing from more and more customers. I was just meeting with one a couple of days ago, and their motivation for building North America is not just the turbulence in Asia, it's also ESG. It's also building closest to their customers and really not forcing your products post-assembly to spend a lot of their time on ocean routes and really consuming a lot of carbon unnecessarily, right? So the closer you build it to your customers, the better. So more and more people are going from just worrying about the unit costs only and just manufacturing labor to thinking about loaded cost of manufacturing and finding out that all of a sudden they realize, the United States is actually competitive in some cases, and Mexico can fill the gaps in places where it's not, when you need high volume and you need a lot of labor. I struggle to think of products that cannot be built in North America. In the industrial, automotive, medical space, manufacturing, IoT, robotics, these are all the highest value segments right now. These things are being built in North America more and more.